Adding another tool won't fix a broken workflow. It just hides it. If you've ever thought, maybe we just need a better project management tool, or maybe we should move everything into Notion, or maybe Slack is the problem, this is for you. Because most founders don't have a tool problem. What they do have is a flow problem. I'm a certified hypnotist and strategy-first marketing consultant, and I've used this exact approach to turn 8-hour workdays into 4-hour days, and to restructure 1,120-hour projects into completed 520-hour projects without burnout. And one of the biggest patterns I see is this. Before you optimize tools, you have to simplify flow. But most people do the opposite. They feel friction, they feel confusion, they feel stuck, so they buy a tool that promises clarity. And when clarity is missing, that feels logical. But tool sprawl is usually outsourced clarity. You end up with a 40-tool tech stack. One for tasks, one for docs, one for chat, one for SOPs, one for reporting, one for automation, one for client communication. And somehow, you're still the bottleneck. Because tools don't create flow, tools amplify flow. If the workflow is clean, the tool makes it smoother. If the workflow is messy, the tool just makes the confusion easier to manage. You can color code chaos, you can tag chaos, you can automate chaos, but it's still chaos. Flow usually breaks at handoffs, not inside the tool. A task starts strong, then it hits a handoff point. Who owns this? What does this mean? What's the standard? What happens if I'm unsure? And when those answers aren't obvious, the work escalates to the most reliable person. You. Broken handoffs lead to escalation. Escalation leads to founder bottlenecks. That's why you can delegate inside Asana all day and still get pinged every 10 minutes. You've seen this. You assign a task, someone asks a question. So you answer. Then they ask another. And you answer. Then they ask one more. And suddenly you realize you're basically doing the task through them. That's not a delegation failure. That's a workflow failure. Because the workflow requires your brain to move forward. And if your brain is required every time, the tool is irrelevant. So here's another trap. A lot of tools optimize visibility, not completion. See, visibility feels productive because you can see everything. You have boards, dashboards, reports, notifications, tags, all of that. So you know where everything is. But completion is about moving work through the system with minimal friction. Visibility does not equal throughput. You could have beautiful boards and perfectly organized tasks. The same 3 projects still aren't shipped. Because the real bottleneck isn't where is the task, it's what prevents the next step from happening without you. See, if a workflow requires your brain to unstick it every time, the tool is just a nicer place to store stuffness. So what actually works? See, the sequence matters. Simplify, standardize, then systemize. Not systemize first. Step 1 is simplify. Before you touch tools, simplify the flow. What is this process actually supposed to accomplish? What can be deleted? What can be shortened? What can be merged? What can be made optional? See, if the workflow has 17 steps and 12 decision points, no tool will save you. Complexity multiplied by software is still complexity. Simplification removes the weight, then you standardize. Standardize what repeats. Templates, response rules, definitions of done. If this happens, do this, decision pass. Most founders aren't drowning in tasks, they're drowning in tiny decisions. Every unclear decision becomes a Slack message. Every vague expectation becomes a meeting. Every undefined standard becomes escalation. Standardize equals fewer decisions. And fewer decisions equals less pressure on you. Only then do tools matter. Because now you're automating a clean flow. Now the tool becomes a container for something that already works. Instead of a substitute for clarity, if your workflow isn't simple enough to draw on a whiteboard in 5 minutes, it's not ready to be tool optimized. Here's a fast diagnostic. Pick one project that's dragging. Ask yourself, where is this consistently slow down? It's usually one of these. Unclear owner, unclear standard, unclear next step, unclear decision rights, too many handoffs, too much work in progress at once. Where is it stall every single time? That's your fix point, not the software. And here's the uncomfortable part. Buying tools feels productive. Redesigning workflow feels harder because workflow redesign forces clarity. It forces you to decide who actually owns this, what actually matters, what can we stop doing, where do decisions live? See, tools are attractive because they let you avoid those questions. But until you answer them, you'll keep switching platforms every 18 months, and friction will follow you. So if this sounds familiar, this is one of the most common bottlenecks I see inside growing businesses. And it's exactly why I teach simplify, then standardize, then systemize. If you want a structured way to walk through this, download Stop Being the Bottleneck, a 7-day plan to reclaim 5+ hours a week without working more. Inside, I break down how to identify where the flow is breaking, reduce unnecessary decisions, and build systems that hold without you constantly unsticking everything. Because your tools aren't the problem, your workflow is. And once the workflow is clean, the tools finally start working for you. If this gave you an aha moment, comment the workflow that keeps slowing down in your business. Where does it stall every time? When you name the friction point, you stop blaming the software and you start fixing the real bottleneck.